I'm Jingchen. Today I'm sharing an updated workflow for coloring black and white manga. Since I released the one-click coloring workflow last time, many of you said that because each image was processed separately, it was easy to get inconsistent colors from page to page. This workflow update can solve that problem pretty well. This new LoRa supports dual image reference. One image is the original black and white manga, and the other is the color reference image. If the same character appears repeatedly in the manga, this workflow keeps things more consistent than the older coloring workflow, because it keeps referring to the same color image, instead of leaving everything for the model to guess. And it is also a klein LoRa, which means it runs faster too. First, let's talk about what this workflow is good for. For reference coloring a single black and white poster, it is basically no problem. And the results are very good. It is also suitable for single manga pages that don't have too many panels, where the character designs are clearly different, and the outfits have some patterns or recognizable details. For example, different hairstyles, different outfit designs, and a main cast that is easy to tell apart. In those cases, reference-based coloring will be more stable. Most manga pages fit this kind of situation. Here are a few common pitfalls. Let me make this clear first. If you're working with manga that has lots of chibi characters, very similar appearances, and clothes made of large single color blocks, the chance of coloring things wrong will still go up. For example, something like Doraemon's style. The characters are very simplified, and the clothes don't have many complex patterns. The model can easily mix up the colors between characters when the main characters look quite different. If there are occasional coloring mistakes because there are many panels, just change the seed. Most of the time, you can get a correct result. But when the differences are small, re-rolling is much less reliable. In that case, the solution is to split the manga panels, use fewer panels as references, and color them separately. That is more of a manual correction approach. You can't really batch it in one click. Next, let's go over the overall idea of this workflow. This workflow is roughly split into several parts. The first part loads the black and white manga. You can load a local folder, or manually upload an image list. You can adjust the connections here as needed. The second part prepares the color reference image. You can directly use a poster with the main cast, or put together a character reference sheet. You can also change the connections here to choose between them. The third part handles the image size. The black and white image and the reference image are scaled to different pixel sizes. And finally, it loops through batch coloring and saving. Let's start with the input method. In the local version, I kept the previous method for batch loading a folder. That means you enter a complete absolute folder path in the parameter area. For example, a manga folder under the iDrive. The workflow will read images from that folder in order. Then it processes them one by one through the loop node. There are two places you need to change here. One is the folder path for the black and white manga, and the other is the output path. The output path is a relative path under ComfyUI's output folder. For example, something like test23. You can also create folders based on the manga name. That makes it easier to find the images later. Another parameter is the total image count. It is best to set this accurately. If you set it too high, the loop will throw an error and stop near the end, but that error won't affect the images already generated and saved. In other words, the earlier images will still be saved as usual. It only stops when it goes past the number of images in the folder. If you're just testing online or doing a temporary test, you can also manually upload an image list. I left that part in the workflow as well. It combines multiple images into one batch, then takes them out one by index for processing. This is better for testing a few images first. You don't have to run the whole folder right from the start. Now let's talk about the most important part this time, the color reference image. The information and quality of this image decide the final coloring result. If it doesn't contain enough usable information, the coloring can go wrong. Generally speaking, manga or doujin works usually have a cover. If the cover has color images of the core characters and a suitable background, it is very suitable as a reference because those colors come from the original author or the official source. The style is also the closest match. If it is a well-known IP, you can also find a group image of the main cast. If the background also matches the manga setting, that works very well too. If you don't have a color cover, and the manga isn't a well-known IP, you can first pick a few key black and white images, and color them once using another method. For example, Use a closed source model, and manually choose a few results you like. After that, combine the main characters into one reference image. Then use that image as the color reference for the later batch coloring. In short, spend a bit more time preparing a good reference image up front. New batch process later, the results will be much better. Next is size handling. And there are some details here too. Based on my testing, the black and white manga image and the color reference image should not have the same resolution. It is better to deliberately offset them. In the workflow, I currently set the target image to around 1.5 million pixels. The reference image is reduced to around 500,000 pixels because if the two images are too similar in size and information density when claimed as image editing, sometimes the images can blend together. That means the scene characters or composition from the reference image may contaminate the final output, so the target image should be large and the reference image small. This makes it clearer for the model that the main image is the one whose structure should be preserved, while the reference image only provides color information. This trick isn't only useful for manga coloring when you use clean for other image editing tasks. If you run into multi-image reference blending, or reference images contaminating the target image, you can also try this large and small image approach. Make the target image larger and the reference image smaller. A lot of the time, it becomes more stable for the main model and sampling parameters. The author originally recommended using the base model with more sampling steps, CFG around 4 to 5, and around 20 steps. But in my testing, that combination sometimes blurs the text in the manga, especially when the page has speech bubbles and small text. The text clarity drops. I later tested several other combinations. One was the Clean 9B base model, plus an acceleration LoRa at 4 steps, CFG1. The other was using Clean 9B directly, 4 steps, CFG1. In the end, I felt that directly using the Clean 9B setup gave the most natural coloring and the fastest speed. So that is the combination I recommend in this workflow. The prompt is just the trigger phrase for this LoRa. If you need stronger mood, lighting, and shadows, you can also add matching descriptions. One more reminder about Sage acceleration. There is a Sage attention patch node in the workflow. It is mainly used to speed things up and optimize VRAM usage, but many people reported before that if Sage isn't installed locally, the output may turn into a black image. So if you don't have Sage installed locally, remember to bypass this node. If you have many manga folders and want to process them all at once, you can continue using the Lumi batch node mentioned last time. I already explained the exact steps last time, so I won't repeat them in this video. Basically, you select multiple folders at once, with a reference image for each folder, and let the workflow run folder by folder. It is suitable for leaving it running overnight. For the cloud drive, same as usual. I'll organize the workflow, models, and the reference images I used for testing. I'll share all of them with you so you can test them easily. This video should basically solve the pain points of the previous manga coloring workflow. The colors are consistent, and the speed is faster too. Even lower spec computers should be able to run it without much pressure. If you found this useful, remember to like and follow. That really means a lot to me. You can also join the group to discuss coloring tips and share your favorite black and white manga or doujin works. See you in the next video.